Some betrayals are so calculated, so meticulously planned, that when you finally discover them, you realize you've been living in a lie for years. Her name was Diana, 45 years old. And for 22 years, she thought she had the perfect marriage. She met Thomas when she was 23, fresh out of law school, sharp, ambitious, ready to conquer the corporate legal world. Thomas was 28, already climbing the ladder at a major investment firm, confident, charming, the kind of man who made you feel like you were the only person in the room. They fell hard and fast, married within a year, and for the first few years, everything was perfect. Diana became a successful corporate lawyer. Thomas continued rising through the ranks. They bought a beautiful house, started planning their future. Then came the children, 3 of them, one after another. Emma, now 17, Josh, 15, and little Sophie, 13. And that's when Thomas suggested Diana take a step back from her career. "The kids need you home," he said, holding her hands across the dinner table. "I'm making enough for both of us. You've worked so hard. Don't you want to actually enjoy being a mother instead of missing every school play and soccer game?" Diana hesitated. She loved her career, but she also loved her children, and Thomas was right. She was missing so much. "Just for a few years," Thomas promised. "Until the kids are older. Then you can go back if you want." So Diana did it. She resigned from her high-powered position, said goodbye to the courtroom, became a stay-at-home mom. And she was good at it. Great, actually. She managed the household like a CEO managing a company. Kids' schedules coordinated perfectly. Home-cooked meals every night. Volunteer work at their schools. Supporting Thomas's career by hosting dinner parties for his colleagues and clients. She became the perfect wife, the perfect mother, the woman behind the successful man. Thomas's career soared. Promotions. Bonuses. Eventually, he became a senior executive at Morrison Investments. 6-figure salary. Stock options. The works. They had everything. Beautiful home in an exclusive neighborhood. 3 healthy, smart kids. Financial security. Respect in their community. From the outside, they were the perfect family. But something started changing about 2 years ago. Thomas began working longer hours. Coming home at 9, 10, sometimes 11 at night. Weekend golf trips with clients. Business conferences that lasted for days. "It's just the promotion," he'd explain, kissing Diana on the forehead. "More responsibility. But it's worth it. We're building our future." Diana believed him. Why wouldn't she? Thomas had always been a hard worker. This was just part of the package. But then came the small things. Things Diana told herself she was imagining. Thomas changed his phone password. When Diana asked why, he said the company required stronger security protocols. He started showering immediately when he got home. Long days. "I feel gross from the office," he'd say. He became distant in bed. "I'm exhausted, honey. Rain check?" He stopped asking about Diana's day. Stopped really seeing her when they talked. His eyes would drift to his phone, his mind clearly elsewhere. Diana tried to dismiss her doubts. Marriage goes through phases, right? 22 years together. 3 kids. Stressful careers. This was normal. This would pass. But then came the night that changed everything. It was a Thursday evening. 3 months ago. Thomas had a late meeting and told Diana not to wait up. She'd made dinner for herself and the kids. Helped with homework. Got Sophie to bed. Around 10:30, she was in the home office looking for the mortgage documents. They were refinancing, and Diana needed to find the original paperwork. Thomas's laptop was on the desk. Usually, he took it everywhere. But he'd left it behind that morning in his rush to get to an early meeting. Diana wasn't trying to snoop. She just needed to check if he'd scanned the mortgage documents and saved them digitally. She opened the laptop. It wasn't password protected, which surprised her. Thomas was usually so careful about security. His desktop loaded. Multiple folders. Work files. Family photos. Nothing unusual. Then Diana saw it. A document open in the background. The title made her stomach drop. Transition Plan Final Draft. Transition Plan? For what? Diana clicked on the document. Started reading. And with every sentence, her world crumbled. Before we go any further into this, I just want to say, if you feel a connection to these stories, a small click on that like button and subscribe would mean more to me than you know. It lets me know I'm not just speaking into the void, that you're really here with me. Alright, let's continue. The document was detailed. Methodical. Like a business strategy presentation. Except the business being strategized was the destruction of Diana's life. Section 1, Asset Protection. A list of Thomas's accounts, investments, properties, with notes about which ones were already in his name only, and which ones needed to be restructured before divorce proceedings. Divorce proceedings. Diana felt like she couldn't breathe. Section 2, Offshore Transfers. Details about moving money to accounts in the Cayman Islands. Amounts. Transfer dates. Some transfers had already happened. Over the past 18 months, Thomas had moved nearly $400,000 offshore. Money Diana didn't even know existed. Section 3, Custody Strategy. This section made Diana physically ill. Establish pattern of Diana's instability. Document instances of her depression and withdrawal from family activities. Get kids on record expressing concern about mother's mental state. Build case for primary custody with supervised visitation only. Diana's hands were shaking. Thomas was planning to take her children by making them believe she was mentally unstable. Section 4, Infidelity Evidence. Plant evidence of Diana's affair on her devices. Text messages, dating app activity, suspicious charges on shared credit card. When confronted, she will deny, appearing defensive and untrustworthy. This establishes grounds for fault-based divorce, reducing alimony obligations. Thomas was going to frame her. Make it look like she was cheating, so he could divorce her and pay less money. Section 5, Public Relations. Begin introducing M to business associates as business partner. Gradual transition to romantic partner post-divorce. Timeline, file for divorce by end of Q2, finalize by Q4, public debut with M by New Year. M. Who was M? Diana scrolled down, found an addendum document, opened it, and there she was. Melissa Chen. 28 years old. Thomas's executive assistant for the past 3 years. Photos of them together at business events. Emails discussing the plan. Text messages that made Diana want to vomit. Can't wait until we don't have to hide anymore. Just a few more months of playing devoted husband. She has no idea. Still playing perfect housewife while I'm building our future. Once this is done, you and I can finally have the life we deserve. Our future. The life we deserve. Thomas wasn't just having an affair. He was replacing Diana. Upgrading to a newer model. A younger woman with a career who wouldn't burden him with domestic responsibilities. Diana sat there in the dark office, staring at the screen, her entire reality shattering around her. 22 years. She'd given him 22 years. Her career. Her independence. Her youth. She'd raised his children. Supported his ambitions. Made his life comfortable and easy. And this was how he repaid her. With a transition plan. Like she was a business problem to be solved. An outdated asset to be liquidated. Diana heard the garage door opening. Thomas was home. She quickly closed all the documents. Shut the laptop. Grabbed random files from the drawer to make it look like she'd been searching for the mortgage papers. Thomas walked into the office. Hey. What are you doing up? Diana forced a smile. Everything in her wanted to scream. To throw the laptop at him. To demand answers. But something stopped her. Some instinct. Some small voice that said, if you confront him now, you lose. He's been planning this for months. Maybe years. He has lawyers. Offshore accounts. A strategy. You have nothing. Just looking for the mortgage documents, Diana said, her voice remarkably steady. Did you scan them? I think they're in the file cabinet. I'll find them tomorrow. He kissed the top of her head. The same casual kiss he'd given her 1,000 times. Coming to bed? In a few minutes. Just want to finish organizing these files. Thomas nodded and headed upstairs. Diana listened to his footsteps. Heard the shower turn on. She sat back down at the desk. Opened the laptop again. This time, she wasn't just reading. She was taking photos with her phone. Every page. Every document. Every email. Every text message. If Thomas wanted to play strategy games, Diana would play too. But unlike him, she wouldn't make the mistake of underestimating her opponent, because Thomas had forgotten something important. Before Diana became a stay-at-home mom, before she became his perfect supportive wife, she'd been a damn good lawyer. One who knew how to build a case, how to gather evidence, how to win. Thomas thought he was executing a transition plan. He had no idea Diana was about to execute one of her own. Over the next few weeks, Diana played the role perfectly. The unsuspecting wife. The devoted mother. The woman too busy with carpool and grocery shopping to notice her marriage was a carefully constructed lie. She smiled when Thomas came home late. Didn't question his weekend golf trips. Made his favorite meals. Laughed at his jokes. All while watching him. Learning his patterns. Documenting everything. She noticed how he'd check his phone constantly at dinner, smiling at messages he wouldn't share. How he'd shower immediately when he got home, even on cool days when he couldn't possibly be sweaty from the office. How he'd take calls in the garage, speaking in low tones Diana couldn't hear. She also started paying attention to her children. Really paying attention. And she noticed they'd been acting differently toward her. Small things. But significant. Emma would ask, "Mom, are you feeling okay?" with concern in her voice that seemed coached. Josh started saying things like, "Dad says we should give you space when you seem stressed." Even little Sophie mentioned that Daddy said sometimes mommies need a break from everyone. Thomas was already executing his plan, planting seeds in their children's minds, making them see Diana as fragile, unstable, someone who needed to be handled carefully. It was brilliant, really. Evil, but brilliant. By the time Diana had filed for divorce in Thomas's timeline, the kids would already be primed to say their mother was struggling, that they were worried about her, that maybe they'd be better off with Dad. Diana felt rage building inside her, but she kept it buried, kept smiling, kept playing perfect. Because she was gathering something Thomas didn't know about, something that would destroy his entire plan. Evidence. Real evidence. Not manufactured. Not manipulated. The truth. One night, Diana was helping Emma with college applications. Her daughter was a senior, looking at schools. "Dad says I should consider staying local," Emma mentioned casually. "So I can be around, you know, in case you need support." Diana's blood went cold. "Support for what, honey?" Emma looked uncomfortable. "I don't know. He just said you've been going through some stuff, that the empty nest might be hard for you, that you might struggle when we all leave." Empty nest. Struggling. Code words for unstable. "Emma, do you think I'm struggling?" Her daughter hesitated. "I mean, you do seem kind of distant sometimes. And Dad said you've been seeing someone." "A therapist?" Diana hadn't been seeing a therapist. But Thomas had apparently told the kids she was. "Did Dad show you any proof of that?" "No. He just said it was private. That we should respect your privacy." Clever. Can't prove something that doesn't exist. But plant the idea that Mom is in therapy, and suddenly every normal behavior looks like evidence of mental health issues. Diana hugged her daughter. "I'm fine, sweetheart. I promise. Your dad might be a little stressed about work and projecting, but I'm perfectly okay." After Emma went to bed, Diana sat in the bathroom with the door locked, crying silently into a towel. Thomas wasn't just stealing her money. He was stealing her children's trust, making them see her as broken when she'd never been stronger. That night, Diana made a decision. She couldn't do this alone. She needed help. Professional help. The next morning, while Thomas was at work and the kids were at school, Diana drove to the city. To the law firm where she used to work. Her old colleague, Patricia Ross, was now a senior partner. They'd kept in touch over the years. Christmas cards. Occasional lunches. Patricia greeted Diana warmly in her corner office. "Diana. What a lovely surprise. What brings you here?" Diana closed the door, sat down, and said 5 words that changed everything. "I need a divorce lawyer." Patricia's expression shifted from friendly to professional in an instant. "Tell me everything." Diana did. The transition plan. The offshore accounts. The gaslighting of the children. The planted affair evidence. Melissa. All of it. Patricia listened without interrupting, taking notes, her face getting harder with each revelation. When Diana finished, Patricia set down her pen. "This is one of the most calculated cases of marital fraud I've ever seen. And I've seen some bad ones. Can we fight it?" "Diana, we're not going to fight it. We're going to destroy it. And him." Patricia leaned forward. "But you need to understand something. Thomas has been planning this for months, maybe years. He's methodical. Strategic. If we're going to beat him, we need to be even more strategic. We need evidence of everything. Financial records. Proof of the affair. Documentation of the gaslighting. Everything. I have the transition plan documents. That's a start. But we need more. Much more." Patricia pulled out a business card. "This is Marcus Chin. Best forensic accountant in the state. He'll trace every dollar Thomas has hidden. And this." She pulled out another card. "Samantha Brooks. private investigator. She specializes in infidelity cases. Between the three of us, we're going to build a case so airtight that Thomas won't know what hit him. Diana took the cards. Felt hope for the first time in weeks. How long will this take? Depends on how well Thomas has covered his tracks. Could be weeks. Could be months. But Diana. Patricia's expression was serious. During this time, you cannot let Thomas know you suspect anything. You have to keep playing the devoted wife. Can you do that? Diana thought about 22 years of marriage. About the career she'd sacrificed. About her children being manipulated. About Melissa living in a penthouse Diana thought had been sold. Yes, Diana said firmly. I can do that. Good. Because when we're done gathering evidence, we're not going to quietly file for divorce. We're going to make sure Thomas and his little assistant face consequences for what they've done. Legal consequences. Financial consequences. And social consequences. Diana smiled for the first time since finding the transition plan. I like the sound of that. Over the next week, Diana met with Marcus the forensic accountant and Samantha the private investigator. Marcus began tracing Thomas's financial moves. It was worse than Diana thought. Not just $400,000 offshore, but nearly $800,000. Money Thomas had been siphoning from their joint accounts, his bonuses, even his company expense account. He's been stealing from his own employer to fund these accounts, Marcus explained. Using fake vendor invoices. Inflated expense reports. This isn't just divorce fraud. This is corporate embezzlement. Samantha started following Thomas and Melissa. Within 3 days, she had photos of them at the penthouse. Video of them at restaurants. Evidence of them traveling together on business trips that were actually romantic getaways. But the most damning evidence came from Samantha's background check on Melissa. Your husband's girlfriend has done this before, Samantha said, showing Diana a file. 4 years ago, she was an assistant to a married executive at another firm. Had an affair with him. He divorced his wife. Then, 6 months later, Melissa cleaned out his accounts and disappeared. He filed charges, but she'd covered her tracks well enough that nothing stuck. Diana stared at the file. Thomas has no idea who he's planning his future with. Nope. He thinks he's the master manipulator. He doesn't realize he's being manipulated too. As Diana gathered evidence, she also started noticing more details of Thomas's gaslighting campaign. She found a journal in her nightstand. Her handwriting. Except she'd never written it. Entries about feeling disconnected from the family and wondering if I made a mistake giving up my career. Thomas had forged a diary to make her look depressed. She found charges on their credit card for a dating app subscription. Under her name. She'd never signed up for any dating app. She found text messages on her phone to a number she didn't recognize. Flirty messages. Making plans to meet. Thomas had access to her phone. Her passwords. Everything. He'd been creating evidence of an affair that didn't exist. Every discovery made Diana angrier. But she kept her composure. Kept documenting. Kept playing her role. Because she was building something Thomas would never see coming. A case that would expose not just his betrayal, but his crimes. A case that would protect her children, her assets, and her future. Thomas thought he was executing a transition plan to trade in his old wife for a new model. He had no idea Diana was executing a plan of her own. One that would transition him from successful executive to exposed fraud. And unlike Thomas, Diana wasn't going to make the mistake of leaving evidence lying around. She was going to wait for the perfect moment to strike. A moment that would maximize damage. Maximize exposure. Maximize justice. Thomas wanted a transition? Diana would give him one. Just not the transition he'd planned. The next few weeks were torture. Every morning, Diana woke up next to a man she no longer recognized. Every evening, she made dinner for a husband who was planning to destroy her. Every night, she kissed goodnight to children who were being manipulated to doubt their own mother. And through it all, she smiled. Played her part. Kept her rage buried so deep that sometimes she wondered if it would ever come out. But Marcus and Samantha were working. Building the case piece by piece. And what they were finding was worse than Diana had imagined. It was a Tuesday afternoon. Diana was meeting Patricia at a coffee shop across town, far from anywhere Thomas or his colleagues would go. Patricia slid a thick folder across the table. Marcus finished the financial analysis. Diana, it's bad. Diana opened the folder. Page after page of bank statements. Transfer records. Account numbers she'd never seen before. Thomas has been systematically moving money for 3 years, Patricia explained. Not 18 months like the transition plan suggested. 3 years. He's been planning this even longer than we thought. Diana's hands trembled as she turned pages. How much total? Just over $1.2 million. Diana felt the air leave her lungs. We don't have that kind of money. Where did it come from? Multiple sources. Your joint savings. His bonuses. But here's the big one. Patricia pointed to a series of transactions highlighted in red. He's been embezzling for Morrison Investments, creating fake vendor accounts, approving payments to companies that don't exist. The money goes offshore, then gets transferred to his personal accounts. He's been stealing from his company? For at least 2 years. About $400,000 from Morrison alone. The rest is marital assets he's been hiding. Money from the sale of your mother's house that you inherited. His stock options that he cashed out without telling you. Even the college funds for the kids. Diana felt sick. The college funds? Patricia nodded grimly. He liquidated them 6 months ago. Told the bank he was transferring them to better investment accounts. He transferred them to the Cayman Islands. But Emma's applying to colleges right now. Josh is 2 years away. Sophie. He doesn't care, Diana. Because in his plan, you're the one who's going to look like the negligent parent. He'll discover the missing funds after the divorce and blame you. Say you spent the money irresponsibly. More evidence of your instability. Diana wanted to scream. To break something. To drive to Thomas's office and confront him in front of everyone. But Patricia grabbed her hand. I know this is devastating. But this is also our ammunition. Corporate embezzlement is a felony. When we expose this, Thomas doesn't just lose the divorce case. He loses his freedom. He goes to prison. Diana took a shaky breath. What else did you find? Patricia pulled out another section of the folder. Photos. Video stills. Samantha's surveillance of Thomas and Melissa. The first photo showed Thomas and Melissa entering a luxury high-rise building downtown. That's the penthouse you thought Thomas sold. He didn't sell it. He transferred it to an LLC in his name only. He and Melissa have been living there together for over a year. Diana stared at the building. She recognized it. Thomas had shown her the listing 2 years ago. Said they should buy it as an investment property. Then, 6 months later, he told her the market had changed and he'd sold it for a small profit. He'd lied. He'd kept it. And moved his mistress in. The next photos showed Thomas and Melissa at restaurants. Walking hand in hand through parks. Kissing in parking garages. Here's where it gets interesting, Patricia said, pulling out more photos. Samantha started following Melissa independently. Tracking her background. The photos showed Melissa at different locations. Meeting with an older man. Laughing over expensive dinners. Shopping with designer bags. Who's that? Diana asked. Richard Holloway. Former CEO of Lexington Financial. 4 years ago, Melissa was his executive assistant. They had an affair. He divorced his wife for her. Then, within 6 months, Melissa systematically drained his accounts and disappeared. Richard tried to press charges, but Melissa had been smart. Set up shell companies. Made it look like legitimate business investments. By the time Richard realized what happened, the money was gone and Melissa was untouchable. Diana's eyes widened. She's done this before. She's a professional, Diana. She targets successful married men. Makes them fall in love. Convinces them to leave their wives. Then, once they're vulnerable and dependent on her, she takes everything and vanishes. Does Thomas know? Patricia shook her head. I doubt it. Men like Thomas think they're the smart ones. The strategists. They never suspect they're being played. He probably thinks he's using Melissa to get rid of you. He has no idea she's using him to get rich. Diana almost felt bad for Thomas. Almost. So what's her plan? Based on the pattern with Richard Holloway? She'll wait until Thomas's divorce is final. Wait until he's moved the maximum amount of money offshore, thinking it's their future nest egg. Then she'll clean out those accounts and disappear. Thomas will end up divorced, broke, and possibly in prison for the embezzlement. And Melissa will be on a beach somewhere with over $1 million. Poetic justice, Diana muttered. Maybe. But we're not going to let it get that far. Because Thomas needs to face consequences. And so does Melissa. Patricia pulled out one more document. Samantha found something else. Text messages between Thomas and Melissa discussing you. How to manipulate the kids. How to plant evidence. How to make you look unstable. Diana read through the messages. Each one more calculated than the last. Thomas Emma asked about Diana's therapy again. I told her it's private but necessary. She seemed worried. Melissa ** perfect. Keep building that narrative. By the time we file, the kids will practically beg to live with you. Thomas * planted more evidence on her phone. Dating app messages. If anyone checks, it'll look like she's cheating. Melissa * you're brilliant. She'll never see it coming. Thomas * 22 years and she still thinks I'm the devoted husband. It's almost too easy. Melissa * that's what happens when women give up their careers. They get complacent, lose their edge. She made herself irrelevant. Diana felt tears burning. Not from sadness. From pure rage. This wasn't just betrayal. This was contempt. They saw her as stupid. As an easy target. As someone who deserved to be discarded because she'd chosen family over career. There's more, Patricia said quietly. Samantha installed monitoring software on Thomas's laptop. With your permission, since technically you own half of everything he does. We've been watching his activity. She pulled out her tablet. Showed Diana a screen recording. Thomas, at his desk, working on something titled Timeline Update. Diana watched as he typed. Phase 3 complete * evidence planted successfully. Dee's phone shows dating app activity, suspicious charges, text messages to unknown number. Children expressing concern about Dee's mental state to school counselor per suggestion. Phase 4 in progress * meeting with lawyer next week to discuss filing strategy. Aim for late May filing, allowing time for summer custody transition. Kids will be out of school, easier to temporarily relocate them before Dee can fight it. Phase 5 preparation * began introducing M to board members as essential team member. Positive responses. Foundation being laid for post-divorce professional partnership announcement. Financial transfers * 870,000 secured offshore. Target 1.2 million before filing. Liquidate remaining joint investments by end of April. Contingency * if Dee becomes suspicious before timeline completion, accelerate to immediate filing. Use planted evidence to get emergency custody order. Argue Dee is danger to children due to mental instability and extramarital affairs. Diana watched herself being dismantled in a business plan. Her marriage reduced to phases and bullet points. Her children treated as assets to be relocated. Her reputation as a contingency to be destroyed if necessary. He's meeting with a lawyer next week, Diana said, her voice hollow. David Thornton. One of the most aggressive divorce attorneys in the state. Known for destroying opposing spouses. He specializes in cases where husbands want to minimize alimony and secure custody. Patricia closed the tablet. Thomas is getting ready to file. When? Based on this timeline? Late May. About 6 weeks from now. 6 weeks. Diana had 6 weeks before Thomas executed his plan. Before he filed for divorce, presented his manufactured evidence, poisoned the court against her, and tried to take her children. Unless she struck first. What if we file first? Diana asked. Patricia smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. Yes. We file first. But not just for divorce. We're going to hit Thomas with everything at once. Fraud. Embezzlement. Conspiracy. We're going to expose every lie, every crime, every manipulation. When? We need a few more weeks to make the case bulletproof. Marcus is still tracing some of the offshore accounts. Samantha is gathering final evidence. But Diana. Patricia leaned forward. We need to be strategic about when we drop this bomb. Maximum impact. Maximum exposure. Diana thought for a moment. Then remembered. Our anniversary. It's in 5 weeks. April 27th. 22 years. Patricia's eyes lit up. Has Thomas mentioned celebrating? He insists on throwing a party. Said we should celebrate with friends and family. Show everyone how strong our marriage is. Of course he does. He's establishing himself as the devoted husband publicly. So when he files for divorce a month later, everyone will think you're the problem. They'll say, but he threw her that beautiful anniversary party. She must have done something terrible. Diana felt the puzzle pieces clicking together. What if we use his own party against him? What are you thinking? He wants to play devoted husband in front of everyone? Fine. Let him. Let him give speeches about our wonderful 22 years. Let him toast to our love. Let him perform. Diana's voice grew stronger. And then we show everyone what he's really been doing. Every lie. Every crime. Every betrayal. In front of all our friends, his colleagues, our families. We expose him at his own party. Patricia was quiet for a moment. Then she grinned. That's brilliant. Devastating, but brilliant. Diana, are you sure? It's going to be nuclear. Humiliating for him. Shocking for everyone there. including your children. Diana thought about Emma, Josh, and Sophie. About how they'd been manipulated. How Thomas had poisoned their view of their own mother. How he was planning to take them away from her. My children deserve to know the truth. And they deserve to hear it before Thomas files and feeds them more lies. Diana's jaw set. We do it at the anniversary party. All right. Then we have 5 weeks. Marcus and Samantha will have everything ready. We'll prepare a presentation. Evidence. Documentation. Everything. Patricia squeezed Diana's hand. Thomas wanted to execute a transition plan. We're going to give him a transition. From successful executive to exposed criminal. That evening, Diana went home and did something she hadn't done in weeks. She actually looked at Thomas. Really looked at him. He was in his study, on a video call. Laughing. Relaxed. Probably talking to Melissa. This was the man she'd married. The father of her children. Her partner for 22 years. Except he wasn't her partner. He was her betrayer. Her enemy. A stranger wearing the face of someone she used to love. When Thomas ended his call and came into the kitchen, Diana was making dinner. He came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist. Smells good. What are you making? Diana forced herself not to flinch. Your favorite. Chicken parmesan. You're the best. He kissed her neck. Hey, I was thinking about our anniversary. I want to throw a big party. Celebrate 22 years properly. A party? Diana kept her voice light, curious. Yeah. Invite everyone. Friends, family, people from work. Show the world what we've built together. He squeezed her tighter. You deserve to be celebrated, Diana. For everything you do. Everything you've sacrificed. Diana wanted to laugh. Or cry. Or both. The audacity of him. Standing there, holding her, talking about celebrating what they'd built while actively planning to destroy it. That sounds wonderful, she said. Let's do it. Really? You're not too overwhelmed? Not at all. I think it's a great idea. Diana turned in his arms, looked him in the eyes. 22 years is worth celebrating properly. Thomas smiled. That charming smile that had made her fall in love with him all those years ago. Now it just made her feel sick. I love you, he said. Diana forced the words out. I love you too. That night, after Thomas fell asleep, Diana lay awake staring at the ceiling. 5 weeks. She had 5 weeks to get through. 5 weeks of pretending. 5 weeks of playing the devoted wife while her husband planned her destruction. But unlike Thomas, Diana wasn't planning to destroy quietly. She wasn't planning to manipulate from the shadows. She was planning to blow up his entire world in front of everyone he knew. And she couldn't wait. Over the next 3 weeks, Diana watched her husband gaslight her family with surgical precision. It started small. Almost too subtle to notice if you weren't looking for it. At dinner one night, Emma mentioned a college she was excited about. Northwestern. A great school, but 6 hours away. That's pretty far, isn't it? Thomas said casually, passing the salad. I mean, with your mom going through everything she's dealing with, maybe somewhere closer would be better. So we can all support each other. Emma glanced at Diana. What are you dealing with, Mom? Diana kept her voice steady. Nothing, honey. I'm fine. Your mom's just been stressed, Thomas interjected smoothly. It's normal. Empty nest anxiety. But it's why I think staying close to home makes sense. Right, Diana? He looked at her expectantly, forcing her to either agree with his lie or contradict him in front of their daughter, which would make her look defensive. Diana took a sip of water. Emma should apply wherever she wants. We'll support her no matter where she goes. Thomas shrugged. Of course. I'm just thinking about what's best for everyone. Later that night, Diana heard Thomas on the phone with his mother. Yeah, Diana's been struggling a bit lately. No, nothing serious. Just the kids getting older. You know how she gave up her career for them. I think she's feeling a little lost now that they don't need her as much. I'm keeping an eye on it, making sure she knows she's still valued. Thanks, Mom. I'm trying to be supportive. Diana stood in the hallway, listening to her husband paint her as a woman falling apart, setting the narrative with his own mother. So when the divorce came, even Thomas's family would think Diana was the unstable one. The next incident was worse. Diana came home from grocery shopping to find Thomas in their bedroom, holding her laptop. Hey, what are you doing with my computer? She asked, setting down her bags. Thomas looked up, concerned. Diana, I need to talk to you about something. I was looking for the kids' vaccination records on your laptop, and I found this. He turned the screen toward her. A dating website. A profile with Diana's photo. Personal information. Messages to men. Diana's blood went cold. I didn't create that. Diana, it's okay if you're feeling disconnected. If you're looking for attention, we can work through this. Maybe couples therapy. Thomas, I did not create that profile. I've never been on that website in my life. He looked at her with such convincing concern that if Diana hadn't known the truth, she might have doubted herself. Honey, the account was created 3 months ago. There are messages here. Conversations with at least 4 different men. I know what you're doing, Diana said quietly. Thomas blinked. What do you mean? You planted that. You have access to my computer. My passwords. You created that profile to make me look like I'm cheating. For just a second, something flickered in Thomas's eyes. Surprise. Calculation. Then it was gone, replaced by wounded confusion. Diana, that's a serious accusation. Why would I do something like that? He set down the laptop and approached her. I'm worried about you. This paranoia, these accusations. Maybe you should talk to someone. A therapist. I'm not paranoid. I know it feels real to you. But honey, accusing me of framing you? That's not rational thinking. He touched her arm gently. Let me help you find someone to talk to. Please. Diana pulled away. I don't need a therapist. I need you to stop lying. Thomas sighed heavily. Okay. We don't have to talk about this now. But Diana, I love you. And I'm here for you. Whatever you're going through. He left the room. Diana stood there, shaking with rage. It was masterful, really. He'd created evidence of her supposed affair. When she confronted him about it, he'd made her look paranoid and defensive. And now he had grounds to suggest she needed psychiatric help. Every move calculated. Every word designed to make her question her own reality. That evening, Thomas called the kids into the living room for a family meeting. Your mom and I want to talk to you about something, he began, sitting on the couch. Diana stood near the doorway, arms crossed, watching. Is everything okay? Josh asked nervously. Everything's fine, Thomas assured him. I just want you guys to know that your mom has been going through a tough time lately. She's dealing with some personal stuff, and I need you all to be extra patient and understanding with her. What kind of stuff? Sophie asked, looking at Diana with worry. Just grown-up things, sweetheart. Your mom is strong, and she's getting help. But sometimes she might seem upset or distracted. That's not about you. It's just something she's working through. Emma spoke up. Mom, are you okay? Diana looked at her daughter. At all 3 of her children, their faces filled with confusion and concern that Thomas had carefully cultivated. She wanted to scream the truth, to tell them their father was lying, to expose everything, but she couldn't. Not yet. Not until she had all the evidence ready. Not until the anniversary party when she could show them proof, not just words. I'm fine, honey, Diana said. Your dad is overreacting. Thomas gave her a look of patient sympathy. See? This is part of it. Not wanting to acknowledge when we need help. But that's okay. We're all here to support you, Diana. He'd done it again. Made her denial look like evidence of the very problem he was inventing. After the kids went to their rooms, Diana confronted Thomas in the kitchen. Stop doing this to them. Stop making them think I'm falling apart. Thomas rinsed his coffee cup, not looking at her. I'm preparing them for what's coming. What's that supposed to mean? He finally turned to face her. And for the first time in weeks, the mask slipped. Just for a moment. His eyes were cold. Empty. It means things are going to change soon, Diana. And when they do, it'll be easier for everyone if the kids are already prepared for the transition. There it was. The word from his plan. Transition. You think you're going to take them from me? Diana's voice was low, dangerous. Thomas stepped closer. I think they'll choose to live with the parent who's stable. Who can provide for them. Who hasn't been cheating and lying and falling apart. He paused. You gave up your career, Diana. You have no income. No way to support them. I have everything. The house. The money. The stability. What judge is going to give custody to an unemployed woman with mental health issues and a history of infidelity? Diana wanted to hit him. To claw that smug expression off his face. Instead, she smiled. We'll see. Something flickered in Thomas's eyes. Uncertainty. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. Diana turned away. Good night, Thomas. She walked upstairs, feeling his eyes on her back. Let him wonder. Let him feel a fraction of the uncertainty he'd been forcing on her. The next day, Diana met with Samantha at a park across town. I need you to accelerate the surveillance, Diana said. Thomas knows I'm onto something. He's getting nervous. Samantha nodded. I've already increased monitoring. And I found something you need to see. She pulled out her phone, showed Diana a video. Thomas and Melissa, in what looked like a car. The audio was clear. She's starting to suspect something, Thomas was saying. She accused me of planting the dating profile. Melissa laughed. So? You can just say she's being paranoid. That's literally what we've been setting up. I know, but what if she goes to a lawyer? What if she fights the custody claim? Thomas, relax. You've been building this case for 3 years. You have evidence of her instability, fake therapy sessions, financial irresponsibility, an affair. The kids already think something's wrong with her. No lawyer can fight that. What about the money? What if she finds out about the offshore accounts? She won't. She's not smart enough. She gave up her law career to play housewife. She doesn't even look at the bank statements anymore. Melissa's voice was dismissive, cruel. You picked well. A woman too trusting and too dumb to see what's happening right in front of her. Diana watched Thomas nod, accepting this assessment of his wife of 22 years. You're right. She's not a threat. Exactly. And in 8 weeks, we'll be free of her. You'll have custody, most of the money, and we can finally stop hiding. It's almost over, baby. They kissed. Long deep. Celebrating Diana's destruction like it was already complete. The video ended. Diana looked at Samantha. When was this recorded? Yesterday. They were parked outside the penthouse. They think I'm not a threat. They think you're broken. Stupid. Helpless. Samantha's expression was fierce. Which makes them careless. Confident. That's when people make mistakes. Diana smiled grimly. Good. Let them be confident. Let them think they've already won. That weekend, Thomas announced he'd booked the venue for their anniversary party. The Riverside Estate, he said proudly. Same place we had our wedding reception. Thought it would be romantic. Full circle. Diana's heart clenched. The Riverside Estate. Where they'd celebrated their marriage 22 years ago. Where they'd danced as newlyweds. Where Diana had been so young and hopeful and in love. Now Thomas wanted to use that same venue to parade his lies in front of everyone they knew. That's thoughtful, Diana managed. I invited everyone. Friends, family, people from work. Even some of our old law school friends you haven't seen in years. I want everyone to see how strong we are. How lucky I am to have you. Diana noticed how he phrased it. How lucky I am. Not we. He was building his devoted husband image for the audience. Setting the stage for his carefully planned exit. Did you invite anyone from your office? Diana asked casually. Yeah, most of the executive team. Including Melissa, my assistant. You've met her a few times. Right. Melissa. Diana kept her voice neutral. That's nice. Thomas watched her carefully, trying to gauge if she suspected anything about Melissa specifically. Diana gave him nothing. Just smiled blandly and went back to folding laundry. Let him think she was clueless. Let him bring his mistress to their anniversary party. Let them both think they were so clever, so untouchable. Because in 3 weeks, at that party, Diana was going to show everyone exactly who Thomas really was. And exactly how not stupid his wife had always been. Meanwhile, the gaslighting continued. Thomas told Diana's father that she'd been forgetful and emotional lately. He mentioned to their neighbors that Diana had been struggling with the kids growing up. He even suggested to the school counselor that Emma might need extra support because her mother is going through a difficult period. Every conversation. Every interaction. Thomas was weaving a web of lies that would make Diana look unstable when he finally filed for divorce. Except Diana was weaving her own web. One made of evidence. Of truth. Of undeniable proof. Patricia called her one evening. Marcus finished tracing the money. We have every account. Every transfer. Every fake vendor payment. It's airtight, Diana. When we present this to the authorities, Thomas won't be able to talk his way out. And Melissa? Samantha found records of her previous schemes. Richard Holloway is willing to testify about what she did to him. We can prove she's done this before. That she's a serial scammer targeting wealthy married men. Will that be enough to charge her? More than enough. Conspiracy to commit fraud. Conspiracy to embezzle. She's going down with Thomas. Diana felt a weight lifting. So we're ready? Almost. We need one more thing. And this is going to be hard, Diana. But it's important. What is it? We need your children to know the truth before the party. Not all the details, but enough that they understand what's happening. Because when we expose Thomas publicly, Emma, Josh, and Sophie are going to be there. They're going to see their father's world collapse. We need to prepare them. Diana's stomach churned. How do I even begin to tell them? Carefully. Honestly. With evidence. Not just accusations. Show them the transition plan. Show them the planted evidence. Let them see what their father has been doing. They're smart kids, Diana. They deserve to know. That night, Diana couldn't sleep. How do you tell your children that their father is a liar and a thief? That he's been manipulating them to turn against their mother? That their entire family is built on a foundation of betrayal? The next morning, Diana made a decision. She asked Emma, Josh, and Sophie to come into the living room. Thomas was at work. It was just the four of them. I need to talk to you about something important, Diana began. Her hands were shaking. And I need you to listen without interrupting. Can you do that? The kids exchanged worried glances. Emma nodded. Okay, Mom. What's wrong? Diana pulled out her laptop. Opened the transition plan document. Your father has been lying to all of us. Including you. And I need you to see the truth. For the next hour, Diana showed them everything. The plan to divorce her and take custody. The fake evidence. The offshore accounts. The messages between Thomas and Melissa discussing how to manipulate the kids. Emma started crying halfway through. Josh went pale and silent. Sophie, at 13, struggled to understand but knew enough to realize their family was being destroyed. Dad's been lying? Emma whispered. About everything? Yes. The therapy? The affair? Your mental health? All lies. Manufactured to make me look unstable so he could justify taking custody of you. Josh spoke up, his voice shaking. He told me you were struggling. That I should document times when you seemed off so we could help you. Was that part of his plan? Diana nodded. He was trying to build a case. Using you three as witnesses against me. Sophie burst into tears. I don't understand. Why would Daddy do this? Diana pulled her youngest into her arms. I don't know, sweetheart. People change. People lie. Sometimes the people we trust most are the ones who hurt us worst. Emma wiped her eyes angrily. What are you going to do? I'm going to fight. I've been gathering evidence. I have lawyers, investigators, accountants. And in 2 weeks, at the anniversary party your father insists on throwing, I'm going to expose everything he's done. At the party? Josh looked shocked. In front of everyone? Yes. Because your father has been building a public image of himself as the devoted husband. When he files for divorce, everyone will think I'm the problem. I need people to see the truth. I need witnesses. Emma was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked at her mother with something Diana hadn't seen in weeks. Trust. What do you need from us? I need you to act normal around your father. I know that's hard. But if he suspects you know, he might accelerate his plan. File for divorce before we're ready. I need 2 more weeks. All 3 kids nodded. Emma reached for Diana's hand. We're on your side, Mom. Always. Diana felt tears finally come. Her children. Her babies. Still hers. Thomas had tried to poison them against her, but he'd underestimated their love. Their loyalty. Thank you, she whispered. That evening, when Thomas came home, Diana watched her children interact with him. Watched them smile and answer his questions and act like everything was normal. But she could see the tension in Emma's shoulders. The way Josh avoided eye contact. The way Sophie barely spoke. Thomas noticed too. At dinner, he frowned. You're all quiet tonight. Everything okay? Just tired, Emma said quickly. Big test tomorrow. Thomas looked at Diana. Everything okay with you? Diana met his eyes. Smiled. Everything's perfect. But it wasn't. And in less than 2 weeks, Thomas would find out just how imperfect everything really was. The final 2 weeks before the anniversary party were the longest of Diana's life. Every morning, she woke up and put on the mask of the devoted wife, made breakfast, packed lunches, kissed Thomas goodbye as he left for work, knowing he was going to meet Melissa, knowing every smile was a lie. But behind the mask, Diana was preparing for war. Patricia's office had become Diana's second home. She spent hours there while the kids were at school and Thomas thought she was grocery shopping or meeting friends for lunch. The presentation is almost ready, Patricia said, pulling up slides on her computer. We've organized everything chronologically. The affair. The financial fraud. The gaslighting campaign. The manufactured evidence. All of it. Diana looked at the screen. Slide after slide of Thomas's betrayal, documented in photos, bank statements, text messages, emails. A complete picture of his 3-year plan to destroy her. It's brutal, Diana said quietly. It needs to be. Thomas has been telling everyone you're unstable. The only way to counter that is to show overwhelming evidence that he's the liar. We can't leave any room for doubt. What about Melissa? Patricia clicked to another section. We have her too. Background on Richard Holloway and what she did to him. Her pattern of targeting wealthy married men. Text messages between her and Thomas planning your destruction. Photos of them at the penthouse. Everything. Will Richard testify? He's already agreed. He wants to see Melissa face consequences for what she did to him. He lost his marriage, most of his money, and his reputation. He's been waiting 4 years for a chance to expose her. Diana nodded. And the embezzlement evidence? Marcus has everything. Fake vendor accounts. Inflated expense reports. Every dollar Thomas stole from Morrison Investments. We're not just taking this to divorce court, Diana. We're taking it to the police. And to Morrison's board of directors. When? The day after the party. We expose him publicly at the anniversary celebration. Let that bomb drop. Let everyone see who he really is. Then, the next morning, we file criminal charges and civil suits. He won't have time to cover his tracks or spin the narrative. By the time he realizes what's happening, it'll be too late. Diana felt a cold satisfaction settling over her. He wanted a transition plan. We're giving him one. Patricia smiled grimly. From executive to defendant. From husband to exposed fraud. From father to man who tried to steal his own kids. That afternoon, Samantha called Diana with an update. I've been monitoring Thomas and Melissa. They're getting sloppy. Confident. They think they've already won. What have you found? Yesterday, Melissa went to a jewelry store. High-end place downtown. She was looking at engagement rings. Diana's stomach turned. Engagement rings? Thomas hasn't proposed yet. But she's clearly expecting him to. Soon. She told the jeweler she wanted something at least 5 carats and worthy of the upgrade. Upgrade. That's what Diana was being replaced by. An upgrade. There's more, Samantha continued. Thomas has been apartment hunting. Looking at places for you. For me? He's planning where to put you after the divorce. Small apartments. Cheap. 1-bedroom places on the outskirts of the city. Far from the kids' schools. Far from your old neighborhood. Diana felt ice in her veins. Thomas had thought of everything. Where she would live. How isolated she would be. How completely he would remove her from the life they'd built. Send me everything, Diana said. Every apartment listing. Every jewelry store visit. Every detail of the life they're planning without me. Already done. Check your secure email. That night, Diana opened the email. Looked at the apartments Thomas had toured. Tiny studios. Dingy buildings. Places with broken elevators and water-stained ceilings. This was where Thomas thought she belonged. Where he was planning to put her. While he lived in their 5-bedroom house with a new wife and Diana's children, she looked at the engagement rings Melissa had modeled. Huge. Ostentatious. Expensive. Probably paid for with money Thomas had stolen. Diana closed the laptop and allowed herself a moment of pure rage. In the darkness of her bedroom, she let herself feel the full weight of the betrayal. The cruelty. The calculation. Then she buried it again. Locked it away. Because in 10 days, she would unleash all of it. The following week, Diana attended a fitting for the anniversary party. At least, that's what she told Thomas. Really, she was meeting with Marcus to review the final financial evidence. I've documented $1.3 million in total, Marcus explained, spreading documents across the conference table. $800,000 in offshore accounts. $300,000 embezzled from Morrison Investments. The rest from liquidated marital assets, your inheritance, and the kids' college funds. Can we recover it? Most of it. The offshore accounts are trickier, but with court orders and cooperation from international authorities, we can freeze them and initiate recovery. The embezzled funds from Morrison will likely be recovered through their insurance and then Thomas will owe restitution. Your inheritance and the college funds, we can absolutely get back through the divorce settlement. Diana nodded. What's Thomas's exposure legally? For the embezzlement? Marcus was quiet for a moment. Wire fraud. Corporate embezzlement. Falsifying business records. If the DA pursues all charges, he's looking at 10 to 15 years in federal prison. 15 years. Diana thought about that. 15 years of Thomas behind bars. Of him losing everything he'd worked for. His career. His freedom. His future with Melissa. Part of her felt guilty for even considering it. He was still the father of her children. Still the man she'd loved for 2 decades. But then she remembered the transition plan. The fake evidence. The way he'd manipulated their kids. The cold calculation in his eyes when he'd told her she'd made herself irrelevant. Pursue every charge, Diana said firmly. Marcus nodded approvingly. I'll make sure the DA has everything they need. At home, Diana noticed the kids were struggling. Emma had stopped eating much at dinner. Josh was withdrawn, barely speaking. Sophie kept asking when the party was, anxiety clear in her voice. One night, after Thomas had gone to bed, Emma came to Diana's room. Mom, are you sure about this? Exposing Dad at the party? Diana patted the bed, and Emma sat down beside her. Are you having second thoughts? It's going to be so public, so humiliating. For him, but also for us. Everyone's going to know our family is falling apart. Diana took her daughter's hand. Emma, your father has been telling people for months that I'm mentally unstable. That I'm having affairs. That I'm a bad mother. When he files for divorce using all his fake evidence, everyone will believe him. They'll think I'm the villain. They'll think he's the victim. The only way to stop that narrative is to show the truth. Publicly. With witnesses. But won't people judge us? Talk about us? Probably. For a while. But they'll talk about the truth, not lies. They'll know your father is the one who destroyed this family, not me. And more importantly, you 3 will know the truth. That's what matters most. Emma was quiet. Then, I hate him. I know I shouldn't, but I do. For what he did to you. To us. Diana pulled her daughter close. You don't have to hate him. He's still your father. But you're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to feel betrayed. Those feelings are valid. Are you angry? Diana thought about that. I'm furious. But I'm also sad. The man I married wouldn't have done this. That man is gone. I don't know who Thomas is anymore. Emma nodded against her shoulder. I'll be strong at the party. I promise. For you. Thank you, sweetheart. The next day, Thomas came home with a surprise. A new dress for Diana. For the party, he said, holding up a garment bag. I wanted you to have something special. I picked it out myself. Diana unzipped the bag. The dress was beautiful. Elegant. Expensive. Exactly her style. Thomas was buying her a dress for the party where she would expose him. The irony was almost funny. It's lovely, Diana said. Thank you. Thomas smiled. I want everyone to see how beautiful my wife is. How lucky I am. Your soon-to-be ex-wife, Diana thought. But she smiled back. I'll look perfect. 3 days before the party, Diana met with Patricia for a final review. We've prepared 2 versions of the presentation, Patricia explained. The public version, which we'll show at the party. And the legal version, which has additional evidence we'll use in court and for criminal charges. What's the difference? The public version focuses on the affair, the gaslighting, and the basic financial fraud. Enough to expose Thomas but not so much detail that people get lost. The legal version has every document, every transaction, every piece of evidence. That's for the authorities. Diana nodded. Who will present it at the party? You. It needs to come from you. I'll be there for support, but this is your moment, Diana. You get to take your power back. Diana felt her heart racing. What if I freeze? What if I can't do it? Patricia looked her in the eyes. You're one of the strongest women I know. You've survived 3 years of psychological abuse. You've played the perfect wife while gathering evidence against your abuser. You've protected your children while your husband tried to turn them against you. Diana, you've already done the hard part. Standing up and telling the truth? That's the easy part. The day before the party, Thomas was in an unusually good mood. Whistling while he got ready for work. Kissing Diana goodbye with actual warmth. Tomorrow's the big day, he said. 22 years. Can you believe it? Hard to believe, Diana said truthfully. I'm so lucky to have you, Diana. You've been an amazing wife. An amazing mother. I don't tell you that enough. Diana looked at this man. Her husband. Her betrayer. Playing his role so perfectly. Building up his devoted husband image one last time before he planned to tear it all down. You're sweet, she said. After he left, Diana allowed herself to feel the full weight of what was coming. Tomorrow night, she would stand in front of everyone they knew and destroy the life Thomas had built. The reputation he'd spent decades creating. The image of the successful, devoted family man. She thought about backing out. About just filing for divorce quietly. Avoiding the public spectacle. Protecting her children from the exposure. But then she thought about the transition plan. About Thomas telling Melissa that Diana had made herself irrelevant. About the fake dating profile. About her children being manipulated. About 3 years of meticulous cruelty. No. Thomas had chosen this. He'd chosen to play his games publicly. To build his lies in front of witnesses. To use their anniversary as a stage for his deception. Diana was simply going to use that same stage to tell the truth. That evening, Emma, Josh, and Sophie gathered in Diana's room. They sat on her bed, a united front. "We're ready, Mom," Emma said. "Whatever happens tomorrow, we're with you." "It's going to be bad," Diana warned. "Your father is going to be angry, humiliated. He might say terrible things." "Let him," Josh said quietly. "We know the truth now. That's all that matters." Sophie, the youngest, looked scared but determined. "Will Daddy go to jail?" Diana took a breath. "Maybe. Probably. He did illegal things, sweetheart. There are consequences for that." "Good," Sophie said, surprising Diana. "He was going to take us away from you. He was going to lie about you." "That's mean." Diana pulled all 3 of her children close. "I love you. No matter what happens tomorrow, remember that. We're a family. The 4 of us. Always." "Always," they echoed. That night, Diana couldn't sleep. She lay in bed next to Thomas, listening to him snore peacefully. Unworried. Confident. Completely unaware that his entire world was about to implode. She thought about their wedding day. 22 years ago. How young they'd been. How in love. How full of hope. She'd meant her vows. For better or worse. In sickness and health. Till death do us part. But Thomas had broken those vows. Shattered them. Made them meaningless. Tomorrow, Diana would make new vows. To herself. To her children. To never let anyone make her feel irrelevant again. To never sacrifice herself so completely that she disappeared. Tomorrow, Diana would stop being the perfect wife. And start being the woman she'd always been underneath. Strong. Smart. Unbreakable. Tomorrow, the transition would begin. Just not the one Thomas had planned. The day of the anniversary party arrived with perfect weather. Sunny. 72 degrees. Not a cloud in the sky. Diana woke up early, her heart pounding. Today was the day. After 3 years of Thomas's planning, after weeks of her own investigation, after 22 years of marriage, today it would all end. Thomas was already awake, unusually energetic. "Big day," he said, kissing her forehead. "I can't wait to celebrate with everyone. Show them what we've built together." Diana smiled. "It'll be memorable. I invited about 150 people. I know we said smaller, but everyone wanted to come. You're loved, Diana. People want to celebrate us. 150 witnesses. Perfect." Thomas left to handle last-minute details at the venue. Diana showered, did her makeup carefully, and put on the dress Thomas had bought her. It fit perfectly. Made her look elegant, confident, beautiful. She looked at herself in the mirror. This would be the last time she wore something Thomas chose for her. The last time she played the role of his wife. Emma knocked on the door. "Mom? You okay?" Diana turned. Her daughter was already dressed, looking nervous but determined. "I'm okay. Are you?" "Scared. But ready." Emma came closer. "You look beautiful." "Thank you, sweetheart." Diana hugged her. "Where are your brothers?" "Downstairs." "We're all ready." "Good. Remember, act normal until I give the signal. Can you do that?" Emma nodded. "What's the signal?" "When I stand up to give my speech. That's when you'll know it's starting." At 5 o'clock, they arrived at the Riverside estate. The same venue where Diana and Thomas had celebrated their wedding reception 22 years ago. The gardens were decorated beautifully. String lights. White roses. Tables set with elegant linens and centerpieces. It looked perfect. Like a fairy tale. Guests were already arriving. Friends Diana hadn't seen in years. Thomas's colleagues from Morrison Investments. Family members. Neighbors. Everyone dressed up, smiling, ready to celebrate. Patricia arrived early, as planned. She looked professional in a navy dress, carrying a leather bag that Diana knew contained a laptop with the presentation. She gave Diana a subtle nod. Everything was ready. Marcus, the forensic accountant, was there too, dressed as a regular guest. Samantha, the private investigator, had positioned herself near the entrance with a camera. They were documenting everything. And then Diana saw her. Melissa Chen. Walking in wearing a red dress that was just a touch too revealing for the occasion. She looked confident. Beautiful. Completely unaware that she was walking into a trap, Thomas greeted Melissa warmly but professionally, playing his role, introducing her to guests as my invaluable assistant. Diana watched them exchange looks when they thought no one was watching. Small smiles. Private jokes. Diana. Thomas called her over. Come meet some people from work. Diana put on her smile and joined him. Shook hands. Made small talk. Played the gracious hostess. All while her heart hammered in her chest. At 6:30, dinner was served. Diana sat at the head table with Thomas, their children, and Thomas's parents. She picked at her food, unable to eat. Emma, Josh, and Sophie were equally quiet, pushing food around their plates. Thomas, meanwhile, was in his element. Laughing. Telling stories. The perfect host celebrating his perfect marriage. His mother leaned over to Diana. You've been so good for Thomas. He's accomplished so much because you gave him the freedom to focus on his career. You should be proud. Diana smiled tightly. I sacrificed a lot. That's what good wives do, Thomas's mother said, patting her hand. Diana thought about that. About how she'd been praised for making herself smaller, for giving up her dreams, for becoming invisible so Thomas could shine. That ended tonight. At 7:15, the DJ announced it was time for speeches. Thomas stood first, microphone in hand, looking out at the crowd with that charming smile Diana used to love. Thank you all for being here tonight. Diana and I are overwhelmed by your love and support. 22 years ago, we stood in this very venue and promised to love each other for a lifetime. And tonight, I can honestly say, that was the best decision I ever made. The crowd applauded. Diana felt sick. Diana gave up a promising legal career to raise our 3 incredible children. She's been the foundation of our family. The rock I lean on. The woman who makes everything possible. Thomas looked at Diana, his eyes warm. Fake. Honey, you're my everything. Here's to 22 more years. Everyone raised their glasses. To Diana and Thomas. Diana stood slowly. Thomas looked surprised but pleased, probably thinking she was going to give a sweet response. Thank you, Thomas. That was touching. Diana took the microphone. Her hands were shaking but her voice was steady. I'd like to say a few words too, if that's okay. Of course. Thomas sat down, smiling. Diana looked out at the crowd. 150 faces. People she knew. People who thought they were here to celebrate love. 22 years is a long time. Long enough to build a life together. Raise children. Create memories. But it's also long enough to hide secrets. Thomas's smile faltered slightly. Diana. I'm not finished. Diana's voice was firm. She saw Patricia stand up near the back, laptop ready. You all know me as the devoted wife. The stay-at-home mom who gave up her career for family. And that's true. I did sacrifice my career. My independence. A lot of myself. Because I believed in my marriage. I believed in my husband. The room was quiet now. Guests exchanging confused glances. But what you don't know is that for the past 3 years, while I've been raising our children and supporting Thomas's career, he's been planning to destroy me. Thomas stood up. Diana, what are you doing? You're not well. Sit down, Thomas. Diana's voice cut through his. Everyone here is about to see exactly how well I am. She nodded at Patricia, who opened the laptop and connected it to the venue's projection screen. The screen that had been showing wedding photos all evening suddenly displayed something else. A document. Titled Transition Planned Final Draft. Gasps rippled through the crowd. This is a document my husband created, Diana continued. A strategic plan to divorce me while maximizing his assets and gaining full custody of our children. It includes sections on hiding money in offshore accounts, manufacturing evidence of my supposed mental instability, and framing me for infidelity I never committed. Thomas had gone pale. That's private. You have no right. I have every right. This document details crimes, Thomas. Fraud. Embezzlement. Conspiracy. And everyone here deserves to know who you really are. Patricia clicked to the next slide. Bank statements showing offshore transfers. Over the past 3 years, Thomas has moved $1.3 million to secret accounts in the Cayman Islands. Money from our joint savings. Money from my inheritance when my mother died. Money from our children's college funds. Diana's voice grew stronger. He even embezzled $400,000 from Morrison Investments, creating fake vendors and approving fraudulent payments. The Morrison executives in the crowd were standing now, faces shocked and furious. Diana, stop this right now, Thomas hissed. You're embarrassing yourself. No, Thomas. I'm exposing you. Patricia clicked again. Photos of Thomas and Melissa. Entering the penthouse. At restaurants. Kissing in parking lots. For the past 3 years, my husband has been having an affair with his assistant, Melissa Chen. Diana gestured toward Melissa, who had frozen in her seat, face white. The penthouse Thomas told me he sold 2 years ago? He kept it. Transferred it to an LLC under his name. He and Melissa have been living there together. The room erupted in shocked murmurs. Guests were turning to look at Melissa, who looked like she wanted to disappear. But it gets better, Diana continued. Melissa has done this before. 4 years ago, she had an affair with Richard Holloway, CEO of Lexington Financial. Convinced him to leave his wife. Then systematically drained his accounts and disappeared. She's a professional con artist who targets wealthy married men. Patricia displayed documents from Richard's case. His testimony. Evidence of Melissa's previous scheme. Melissa stood up abruptly. This is slander. I'll sue you. Slander requires lies, Melissa. Everything I'm saying is true. And provable. Diana looked at her calmly. You thought you were playing Thomas. But you both played me. Except I'm smarter than either of you realized. Thomas was standing now, his face red with rage and humiliation. You had no right to investigate me. To spy on me. I had every right to protect myself and my children from a criminal. Diana's voice was ice cold. You created fake evidence of affairs I never had. You planted a dating profile on my computer. You manipulated our children into thinking I was mentally unstable. You told your colleagues, your family, our friends that I was falling apart. All lies. All part of your transition plan to take everything from me. Patricia clicked to the next slide. Text messages between Thomas and Melissa discussing their plan. Laughing about Diana. Calling her too trusting and too dumb to see what's happening. Diana watched Thomas as he saw his own words projected for everyone to see. Watched him realize there was no way to spin this. No way to deny it. The most painful part, Diana said, her voice breaking slightly, wasn't the affair. It wasn't even the money. It was the cruelty. The calculation. The way you turned our love story into a business strategy. I was Section 1, asset protection. Our children were Section 3, custody strategy. You reduced 22 years of marriage to phases and bullet points. Tears were streaming down her face now, but her voice remained strong. I loved you, Thomas. I gave you everything. My career. My independence. My trust. And you repaid me by trying to destroy me. By stealing from our children's future. By making me question my own sanity. Emma, Josh, and Sophie had moved to stand beside their mother. A united front. But here's what you didn't count on, Diana continued. I'm not the weak, irrelevant housewife you thought I was. I'm the lawyer you convinced to give up her career. I'm the woman who knows how to gather evidence and build a case. And over the past 6 weeks, I've built one hell of a case against you. She looked out at the crowd. At Thomas's colleagues. At the Morrison executives who were already on their phones, probably calling their legal department. Tomorrow morning, criminal charges will be filed against Thomas for embezzlement, wire fraud, and falsifying business records. Civil suits for the divorce, for recovery of stolen marital assets, and for emotional damages. The DA has all the evidence. So does Morrison Investments Board of Directors. So do the federal authorities investigating the offshore accounts. Thomas was shaking his head. You can't do this. I'll fight it. I have lawyers. Better lawyers than Patricia Ross? Diana gestured to Patricia. Senior partner at Harrison and Blake. One of the best divorce attorneys in the state. She has every document. Every text message. Every bank statement. Every witness. You're done, Thomas. The room was silent except for the sound of Thomas's heavy breathing. Diana could see the moment it hit him. The moment he realized she'd beaten him at his own game. As for you, Melissa, Diana turned to face her. The police would like to speak to you about conspiracy to commit fraud. Richard Holloway is pressing charges related to your previous scheme. And Morrison Investments will likely pursue charges for your role in helping Thomas embezzle company funds. Melissa looked at Thomas desperately. Thomas, do something. But Thomas was staring at Diana with something she'd never seen before. Fear. Real, genuine fear. 2 police officers stepped forward from the back of the room. Samantha had arranged for them to be present, waiting for this moment. Thomas Crawford, one officer said. We need you to come with us. There are some questions about financial irregularities at Morrison Investments. I'm in the middle of my anniversary party, Thomas said desperately. This is inappropriate. Sir, you can come willingly or we can make this more difficult. Thomas looked around the room. At his colleagues. His friends. His family. All of them staring at him with shock and disgust. His perfect reputation crumbling in real time. His mother was crying. His father looked furious. The Morrison executives were already heading for the exit, phones pressed to their ears. This isn't over, Diana, Thomas hissed as the officers guided him toward the door. I'll fight this. You'll lose, Diana said simply. Because unlike you, I have the truth on my side. As Thomas was let out, another officer approached Melissa. Melissa Chen? We'd like you to come to the station as well. Melissa's confident facade finally cracked. I want a lawyer. That's your right. Let's go. As they were both escorted out, the room remained in stunned silence. Then, slowly, someone started clapping. Diana's father. Standing at his table, tears streaming down his face, applauding his daughter. Emma, Josh, and Sophie joined in. Then Patricia. Marcus. Samantha. More people stood. Diana's old law school friends. Some of the neighbors. People who'd watched Thomas gaslight Diana for years and finally saw the truth. Not everyone applauded. Some people looked uncomfortable. Angry, even. Thomas's family left quickly, his mother sobbing. But Diana didn't care. She'd done what she needed to do. Told the truth. Protected her children. Taken back her power. Patricia came to the microphone. For anyone who has questions or concerns, I have copies of all the evidence. Everything Diana shared tonight is documented and verifiable. This wasn't a show. This was an act of self-defense against a man who spent 3 years plotting to destroy his wife. Slowly, guests started leaving. Some approached Diana to offer support. Others left quickly, uncomfortable with the drama. Diana's father hugged her tightly. Your mother would be so proud. You're stronger than I ever knew. I learned from the best, Diana whispered. Within an hour, the venue was empty except for Diana, her children, Patricia, Marcus, and Samantha. They sat at the head table, surrounded by the ruins of the anniversary party. Untouched cake. Wilting flowers. Empty champagne glasses. You did it, Patricia said softly. You really did it. Diana nodded, feeling exhausted. What happens now? Now? Thomas gets processed. Probably posts bail tonight. But by tomorrow, the charges will be filed officially. Morrison will conduct an investigation. The DA will build their case. And we'll proceed with the divorce. How long? Criminal case? Could be 6 months to a year before trial. Divorce? We can push for expedited proceedings given the circumstances. Maybe 3 to 4 months. Diana thought about that. Months more of this battle. But at least now, she was fighting back. Not just surviving. Fighting. What about custody? Emma asked quietly. Patricia turned to her. Your mother will get primary custody. No question. Thomas's own documents show he was planning to manipulate all of you. No judge will award custody to someone who's been gaslighting his children. Good, Josh said firmly. Sophie was quiet, processing everything. Diana pulled her youngest close. You okay, sweetheart? Is Daddy going to jail? Maybe. Probably. He did very bad things. I'm sad, Sophie admitted. But I'm not sad for him. I'm sad that he wasn't the daddy I thought he was. Diana felt her heart break. I know, baby. I'm sad about that too. They sat there for a while, the 6 of them, as the sun set over the Riverside estate. The venue that had seen the beginning of Diana's marriage and now had witnessed its ending. Finally, Patricia spoke. Diana, what you did tonight took incredible courage. Most people would have filed quietly. Avoided the confrontation. But you chose to stand up publicly. To expose the truth. That matters. I couldn't let him control the narrative, Diana said. He spent 3 years telling people I was unstable. If I'd filed quietly, everyone would have believed him. They'd think I was the crazy ex-wife. This way, they know the truth. They definitely know now, Marcus said with a slight smile. This is going to be all over town by tomorrow. Diana nodded. Let them talk. At least they'll be talking about the truth, not Thomas's lies. Over the next few weeks, Diana watched her husband's world completely collapse. Morrison Investments fired him immediately. Launched a full investigation into his embezzlement. The company's insurance covered the stolen funds, but Morrison sued Thomas personally for restitution and damages. The criminal charges moved forward quickly. Wire fraud. Corporate embezzlement. Conspiracy to commit fraud. The DA had all of Marcus's evidence. Thomas's own transition plan document. His text messages with Melissa. Everything. Thomas tried to fight it. Hired an expensive lawyer who argued the evidence was obtained illegally. But Patricia had been careful. Everything was obtained legally. Through divorce discovery. Through public records. Through surveillance in public places. The divorce proceedings were brutal but swift. Thomas tried to argue for shared custody. The judge read the transition plan document and immediately ruled in Diana's favor. Primary custody to Diana. Supervised visitation only for Thomas. Thomas tried to hide assets. The judge ordered full financial disclosure and brought in federal authorities to trace the offshore accounts. Within weeks, the accounts were frozen. The money started being recovered. Melissa Chen was arrested and charged as an accomplice to Thomas's fraud. Richard Holloway's previous case against her was reopened with new evidence. She hired a lawyer who tried to cut a deal, but the DA wasn't interested in deals. Not after what she'd done to multiple men, multiple families. The media picked up the story. Local executive arrested for embezzlement and elaborate scheme to frame wife. It spread through their social circle like wildfire. Thomas's reputation was destroyed. His career was over. His relationship with his children was shattered. Emma refused to see him. Josh went to supervised visits but barely spoke. Only Sophie, young and hoping her father would somehow explain it all, tried to maintain a relationship. But even that was strained. How do you explain to a 13-year-old that you spent 3 years plotting to take her away from her mother? 6 months after the anniversary party, Diana stood in a courtroom for the final divorce hearing. Thomas looked different. Thinner. Older. The confident executive was gone, replaced by a man facing 15 years in federal prison. The judge reviewed the settlement. Diana Crawford receives primary custody of all 3 minor children. Thomas Crawford receives supervised visitation pending the outcome of criminal proceedings. Diana receives the marital home, 70% of recovered assets, full restitution for her inheritance and the children's college funds, and alimony of $15,000 per month until such time as she remarries or Thomas is incarcerated. Thomas's lawyer tried to object. Your Honor, my client will be unable to pay alimony from prison. Then perhaps your client should have considered that before committing multiple felonies, the judge said dryly. The alimony order stands. If Mr. Crawford is incarcerated, the debt will accumulate and be payable upon his release. The judge signed the papers. This marriage is dissolved. Court dismissed. Diana walked out of the courtroom a free woman. Divorced. Vindicated. Whole. Patricia hugged her. It's over. You won. We won, Diana corrected. I couldn't have done this without you. 3 weeks later, Thomas's criminal trial began. Diana attended every day, sitting in the gallery with her children beside her. They watched as prosecutor after prosecutor presented evidence. The transition plan. The offshore accounts. The fake vendors. The text messages. Everything Diana had discovered and more. Thomas's defense tried to argue he was under stress. That Melissa had manipulated him. That he'd made mistakes but hadn't meant to cause harm. The jury didn't buy it. After 4 days of deliberation, they returned with a verdict. Guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced Thomas to 12 years in federal prison, ordered him to pay full restitution to Morrison Investments, to Diana, and to his children for their stolen college funds. As Thomas was led away in handcuffs, he looked at Diana one last time. She saw anger there. Blame. But also something else. Regret, maybe. Or just self-pity. Diana felt nothing. No satisfaction. No revenge. Just relief. It was finally, truly over. Melissa's trial came 2 months later. She was sentenced to 8 years for her role in Thomas's scheme and for the previous fraud against Richard Holloway. Diana attended that sentencing too. Watched as Melissa, who'd been so confident in her red dress at the anniversary party, stood before the judge in an orange jumpsuit. You targeted vulnerable men and destroyed families, the judge told her. You showed no remorse. No guilt. You treated people's lives like games to be played. Now you'll have years to reflect on those choices. As Melissa was led away, she didn't look at Diana. Didn't acknowledge her at all. Just walked out with her head down, finally faced with consequences she'd avoided for years. 2 years after the anniversary party, Diana's life looked completely different. She'd gone back to law. Not as a corporate attorney, but as a family lawyer specializing in helping women escape abusive marriages. She'd taken her experience, her pain, and turned it into a purpose. Emma was in college. Northwestern, the school she'd always wanted. Thriving. Strong. no longer questioning her mother's stability. Josh was a senior in high school, planning to study computer science. He'd started going to therapy to process his father's betrayal. It was helping. Sophie, now 15, was doing okay. She still wrote to Thomas in prison sometimes. Diana didn't stop her. Sophie needed to process her grief in her own way. Diana had bought a smaller house closer to her office. 4 bedrooms. Perfect for her and the kids. Nothing like the mansion she'd shared with Thomas, but it felt like home in a way that house never had. She'd started dating again. Nothing serious. Just coffee dates. Learning who she was outside of being Thomas's wife. One evening, Diana was making dinner when Emma called from college. "Mom, I have to tell you something." Diana's heart jumped. "What is it? Are you okay?" "I'm fine. Better than fine, actually. I wanted to thank you." "For what?" "For fighting back. For not letting Dad destroy you. For showing me what it looks like to be strong. I have friends here whose parents are divorcing, and their moms are so broken. But you? You didn't break. You fought. And you won." Diana felt tears pricking her eyes. "Thank you, sweetheart. That means everything. I'm proud to be your daughter, Mom. I hope you know that." After they hung up, Diana stood in her kitchen and let herself feel the full weight of the past 2 years. The betrayal. The investigation. The public exposure. The divorce. The trial. All of it. It had been the hardest thing she'd ever done. Exposing Thomas. Watching her children process their father's crimes. Rebuilding her life from scratch. But she'd survived. More than survived. She'd reclaimed herself. Thomas had tried to make her irrelevant. To erase her. To reduce her to a problem to be solved in his transition plan. Instead, she'd shown everyone, exactly how relevant she still was. Diana looked at her reflection in the kitchen window. She saw a woman she recognized. Not the perfect corporate wife Thomas had wanted. Not the stay-at-home mom she'd forced herself to become. Just Diana, 47 years old, divorced. A mother. A lawyer. A survivor. A fighter. And she realized something important. Something she needed to hear. She hadn't lost 22 years to a bad marriage. She'd gained 3 incredible children. She'd learned her own strength. She'd discovered she could survive anything. Thomas had wanted a transition. And he'd gotten one. Just not the one he planned. He'd transitioned from executive to prisoner. From husband to ex-husband. From respected community member to convicted felon. And Diana? She'd transitioned from victim to victor. From invisible to visible. From broken to whole. That was the transition that mattered. Diana smiled at her reflection. Turned back to making dinner for herself. Poured a glass of wine. Put on music. And lived her life. Her real life. The one she'd fought for. The one she'd earned. Free. Thank you for walking this difficult road with me to the very end. If this story resonated with you, you can support our community by sending a super thanks. It helps me continue to bring these important stories to light. On the screen now are 2 more stories that I know will touch your soul. I'll see you in the next one. Stay strong.